You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week. Praise God. That means we get to hear from the camel. Hit it.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Friday can't get here fast enough, man. I'm just saying. Can somebody go ahead and just scratch this week off the calendar? That'd be awesome. Hey, JP's on the board. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on? I think this week is scratching itself off the calendar as we go.
Oh, all right. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you nonetheless. So, yes, it is hump day. Yes, you are halfway to the weekend. Yes, we're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. But in the meantime, we got stuff to talk about. Do not forget, on hump day, we have a thing at the top of the third hour we call the Grand Council. We bring in Jeff Poore, Dale Jackson, and just little old me, and we ping each other with questions and see how the Grand Council surveys the facts of the day. So, yeah, that's coming up top of the third hour. Grand Council, Jeff Poore, Dale Jackson, and then I still got a triple dipper filled with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, 100 days. Y'all, it has been 100 days. We are looking at the end of 100 days of Trump 2.0. Trump 47. And what do you think of it? I want to know. And I actually do want to know. I want to know, are you satisfied? Are you concerned? Are there things you haven't seen that you want to see? Are there things that you're looking for that you just don't think they've even addressed yet? Tell us. You can text it or call it in, 833-687-4448, but 833-68-RIGHT. Yep, that's 100 days. We'll talk about that as number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, tariff time. A lot of talk about tariffs, a lot of things happening, a lot of questions. Is it impacting the economy? Are the cost of groceries going up yet? Is the cost of energy going up? What are you seeing? Tariff time. I'll tell you about some things that are developing in the tariff wars. That's number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, Coming to America. And no, I don't mean the movie with Eddie Murphy. Coming to America. I mean, what should we look for when people come to America? Is it too much to ask for them to actually assimilate into the culture? Is it too much for us to ask that when they come to our country that, they basically say, we embrace who you are, that's why we want to be here, as opposed to flying their own flag and then protesting the nation that now hosts them? Coming to America. We'll talk about that as number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, well, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue, and I'll remind you guys that Stan McDonald at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. Stan McDonald is a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. He's the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan here in just a few minutes. All right, so Rightside Way monologue. This one's going to be a little different. I'm going to be transparent here. I'm going to tell you a story about a dream I had, literally, no kidding. So I looked back in the Rightside archives because I was reminded of this story over the last 24 hours, some things that I've got on my plate that I'm working through. And my records show that, I actually told this story to the audience 3.5 years ago in November of 2021. But I got some things on my plate, like I said, right now that have been weighing on me. Things that involve decisions, hard calls, clarity of mind and purpose. And they're not easy. To some degree, they suck, just pure and simple. And yet they are mine to do, and so I'm going to do them. And it brought to mind this dream that I'll tell you about over the next few minutes. So let me ask you, though, first of all, speaking of dreams, do you ever remember your dreams? Because sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I mean, generally, if I do remember them to some degree, it's only when I first wake up, but not often past that first cup of coffee, right? But every once in a while, there are those dreams that stick with me. I mean, I've had some dreams with my eyes wide open, hallucinations at Army Ranger School. I can still remember those because they seemed so real. My mind was tripping. I could still see the little garden gnomes running through the trees in the Florida swamps at Ranger School. I could still see them. Little beggars wearing their red cone-shaped hats, beating it through the woods. Scared the stew out of me, too. But every once in a while, I also have one of those like really intense sleeping dreams. You know, the sleeping kind, the kind that sticks with me well after I wake up. The kind that is so vivid and so unrealistically realistic, if you know what I mean. And in my lifetime, there have been a handful of dreams that I had during my sleep that have stood the test of time. And I had one such dream about 10 years ago that I could still recall every detail of. It was one of those dreams that even felt like I needed to analyze it, like I needed to think through it, like it meant something. Something way more profound than just the visual images of the dream itself. So I won't go into all the details, but here was the gist of it. And by the way, keep in mind, this was my dream a decade ago, but I could still recall the details of it today. So in my dream, I was at a castle. It was a huge medieval castle. It stood on the edge of a small, dark body of water. I mean, like the castle walls came right to the edge of the water. But if you looked out over that dark water, you could see a seawall in the distance, and it went from the seawall out there past that to a huge, like larger body of water, almost as if we were on a lagoon at the edge of an ocean. And so in the dream, there was somebody who was oppressive, somebody who was evil. I never saw their face, but they were there, and they were in charge. And I could feel how bad they were, right? It was oppressive in the dream. But whoever this evil person was in my dream, they had also taken everything and everyone that I cared about hostage. And they told me in the dream that the only way I could save them was if I was willing to go neck deep in this huge body of water and stay out there for an unknown period of time. The thing is, though, as they told me that, I could look out in the water and I could see that there was something living in the water. I looked up, I could actually see some kind of a sea monster kind of going up and down in the water, and that's where they wanted me to go. I don't know what it was, but it was dangerous. I knew that. So I can still see and hear and feel that dream. It was amazingly vivid. I was told by the bad guy in the dream that at a certain time, it was my duty to wade out in the water if I wanted to save those that I loved. And then he made me a slave and made me start doing menial work. And at some point, though, I was sweeping out the castle. I looked down at my watch. I saw what time it was, and I ran to the water, literally ran to the water at just the right time. And I waded out in the water until I was neck deep. I couldn't touch the bottom. I was just treading water. But that's what it took. And in the dream, I became exhausted. I didn't feel like I could keep my head above water, but I wasn't getting out. I wasn't getting out because that's what it took to save everything. To save everything, I had to give everything. I was not going to get my loved ones back and my life back until I took the risk. Look, I'm not going to tell you the whole dream. There were other parts. There were some very significant moments, but suffice to say this, I will tell you the dream ended well. When the good guys saw what I was doing, the cavalry came to my aid, so to speak. But here's my point. In the dream, everything that I loved and cared about was at risk. And the only way I was going to get it all back was to be willing to go neck deep and tread in water. So yeah, as I deal with some things that are on my plate right now in real life, I still remember that dream. And that said, I know that I need to go neck deep. So I am. But that dream, it came back to my mind too as I prepared for today's show, because I'm talking about the 100 days of Trump, and I'm realizing what a difference it is compared to where we've been. Look, that's where we are. Everything and everyone that we love has been threatened in one way or another if you're a conservative or a Christian over the past few years. I mean, I can think back to the pandemic. It's still a fresh wound. Vaccine mandates, loss of jobs, shutting down your businesses, can't go to church and worship. Constitutional freedoms were being shut down. Freedom of speech was a joke. Assembly, well, they told you when you could assemble and when you couldn't. Spending on big government programs that didn't match anything that compared to our real conservative Christian realities. Sacrificing our international standing. The debacle in Afghanistan, the southern border. Economics, inflation, supply chain disruptions. Education, Alabama ranked so low. School shutdowns, though, made it even worse. And then there was liberal social justice policies in our schools. Black Lives Matter could march, Antifa could riot, but churches were not allowed to meet at some points. Courtrooms were not allowed to convene. Then there was lawfare, the abuse of the court system. I could go on and on, but you get the picture. This audience that I'm talking to right now, I get who you are. This is an audience that watches the Times as much or more than I do. But in the middle of all of that, I have to say this: I have had no loss of confidence. Have I been aggravated? Yes. Do I yell at the TV sometimes? Yes. Do I really get tired of having to do the next thing on the list? Yes. But I am not in despair. Conservatives, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, and if faith kicks in for me on this too. We may be pressed down, we may be set upon, but we are not by any stretch beaten because we know that we're right. And there's still fight in the right. And there are people who are willing to go neck deep if that's what it takes. You see, one of the odd things about that dream, and maybe one day I'll tell you the whole thing, but it was that at no time in the dream did I ever get into a pitiful me mode. It didn't. Everything and everybody I cared for in that dream was somehow at risk or being held hostage, but I was still confident. I was confident knowing that if I would just get neck deep in that dangerous water, somehow it would all work out. I didn't even know how. And the ending of the dream was a huge plot twist. They ought to make a movie out of it. But I knew it would come together. Well, here we are at the end of the first 100 days of a new administration, and the left is now determined to scratch and claw and fight every step of the way. But y'all, I'm telling you, we went neck deep on this one, and now we have a chance to put things back in the right place. But there's an element out there working feverishly right now, trying to remake our society. They're working to pass laws, to try and spend money, to create policy. They're trying to use lawfare again to stop everything that we're trying to do to fix things. They're designed to do nothing but to fully and completely transform this nation. And the crazy thing is they don't even try to hide it anymore. You see, the only way to counter that effort at liberal transformation of our nation is for folks like you Rightside ruffians to go neck deep, to get involved in your community, to capitalize on last November's momentum, to know the issues, to be aware of your times, to speak out at public meetings. I say all that. I know I say it a lot, but I say it for good reason, because that's what's needed. In the end of that dream, I got neck deep, and I wasn't sure how long I was going to have to tread that water. But I knew that I was going to stay there for as long as it took. But in the dream, what happened was my going neck deep caused others to join the fight. It wound up being a pretty cool dream. So the bottom line is, yeah, life has risks. Sometimes life is just plain ugly. Sometimes it just sucks. But this past week, my pastor said in the middle of his sermon, he said, if we don't quit, we win. And folks, it's going to take some of you putting aside your personal comfort zones to go neck deep. You got to forget the risk. You got to get neck deep in the fixing of our society, the fixing of our government, or maybe the fixing of your personal positions in life, like your relationships, your finances, your jobs, your families. You get busy getting neck deep, folks. That's what it takes. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Lord God, who am I preaching to? Just myself? I don't know. I doubt it. I suspect somebody out there needed to hear that. So I'm not going to tell you that this is like a go light on you kind of monologue. This is the one that says, all right, you know what? Enough of that. Kick you right in the pants. Go get neck deep, because that's what it's going to take. Let's get her done. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. No kidding, man. I can still feel that dream. I mean, it's like I lived it. But anyway, text me your thoughts. Love to get them. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Got to real quick, though, tell you about Stan McDonald. Yeah, I do, because he's a sponsor of the Daily Right Side Way monologue. So attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee, 30-year veteran in the practice of law. Listen, y'all, I know Stan personally. I can tell you right now, not only is he the kind of guy that can advocate for your legal needs pretty darn well, but he's been an absolute warrior for causes that are near and dear to right side ruffians everywhere for a long time. I mean, he's all in the mix. He's one of us. But attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients over the years in like literally thousands of real estate transactions. He knows how to stand up for you in local, state, federal courts. I like to say when Stan McDonald is on your side, you will have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. How about that? So let me just tell you how to reach him, because you might need an attorney in North Alabama. Attorney Stan McDonald, the law firm is Wilmer & Lee. He's an America First family man. He's also an attorney. Oh, yeah. Here's his phone number, 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Right Side Radio. And no representation made. The quality legal service we form is great quality legal service for the lawyers or something like that.
It was so close.
I was on the cusp.
I was about to say that was one of your better ones, but he fell apart. It's okay.
Didn't stick the landing.
No, you did not. No.
Oh, shoot. All right. Everybody knows what that was. That's such a farce, too, by the way.
Yeah.
What stupid lawyer came up with that idea?
I don't know. It takes a lawyer to know one.
Well, you can't advertise for yourself because it makes it sound like you're trying to say you're really good. Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's the point.
That's kind of the point. By the way, just so you know, Stan's a really good lawyer. There. Yeah. How you like that?
Hey, real quick, by the way, I know we're about to talk about Trump's first 100 days.
Yes, we are.
How about we both give our favorite thing Trump's done his first 100 days, and then something we'd like to see get done either better or get done faster, I would say. I think this is something the audience could chime in on as well. What do you think about that?
I like it. Okay, so like in the Army, we call it a hot wash or an after-action review, like when things are fresh.
Yep.
But the requirement is that you always give ups and downs. So you're saying we're hot washing the first 100. I like it.
We'll give it up.
I should have called this the hot wash.
The hot wash. Yeah. I can go first if you want.
How much time we got?
We got about 2 minutes.
All right, so we're going. You got to have at least one up and at least one down.
Yes.
Or you can't participate.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
So I'll give my up. I think definitely the best thing they've done in the 100 days is the border, 100%.
Yeah.
Although deportations have been slowed down a little bit by activist judges, I think they shut down the border very much, very well. And the one down I'd like to see get done faster, and I thought would get done faster, is ending this war in Ukraine. I know a lot of it is not Trump's fault, but I thought it would be done faster, so I'd like to see that get going faster, I'll say. So that would be my one up and one down. How about you?
Wow. All right, hot wash. My absolute up is the same as yours, the border. Yeah. Because I have a stat I just saw in a minute ago, looking through my notes. We've gone from, in the month of February last year, something like 187,000 illegal border crossers down to 8,000 in a 1 year later, which proves that it really was just a change in president that made the difference. So my number one thing of the first 100 days, my hot wash positive, is the border. And kind of related, my downside is I think the thing about this guy, Abrego Garcia, was a bit of I think it was a bit of a self-inflicted wound. And what I want to see is these people out of the country as fast as possible. But I think we have to make sure that we are recognizing that if you ship the wrong person, the left will take hold of that and make it their cause célèbre.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this guy thinking he probably needs to go. I'm not at all offended by the fact that he's gone, but I hate the fact that we've got a self-inflicted wound because there was a little more to his story than some of the others, and I wish they had measured their pace a little bit on that one before they stepped into it. So there's my negative.
Y'all text in. Let us know you're one up and one down as well.
I like it. JP's Hot Wash. All right. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Whew. I mean, it goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, like from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, like all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across to the place we now get to call once again Fort Benning. And then, oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Huge expanse of ground. Great audience everywhere we look. Lots of text messages. I'll get a few. Some of these predate the thing about doing the hot wash, about one ups and one downs. So if you hear somebody not abiding by the rules, they didn't know the rules yet. Bill from Huntsville said it's way better than I thought it would be. That's that's a resounding yes, I think.
Yeah, I would say.
Scott from Somerville says, first 100 days, lots of talk, lots of attempts, more interference than anything, and still no arrests, definitely no swamp draining. What? Okay, Scott, I don't know what you're looking for. You don't arrest somebody overnight. You have to have an investigation. You have to have an IG, not an IG, but what's the word I'm looking for now? A grand jury. And so you're not going to just have arrests overnight. But I think you've got to look at it and go, we've discovered a lot of stuff. Doge has been wearing people out. That's why the liberals were having such a freak out about it.
I think specifically with the Epstein stuff, I think people were expecting heads to roll like day one or week one, which it's just going to take a little bit of time. And I understand that you want to see that happen, but at the same time, guys like Dan Bongino and Cash Patel didn't just change overnight, and all of a sudden they're not for the stuff they said they were for.
That's right.
It just takes it's not as quick and easy.
And how long is Bongino and how long has Cash been in the job?
Less than 100 days.
Yeah. So I think they're romping some people right now. But stand by, because I think there's going to be some people. By the way, you've already seen things. So I'm going to address that real quick. You've already seen things like the revoking of security clearances. You've seen things like the slashing of jobs and the dismantling of bureaucracies. So when you say no swamp draining, what does it take to drain a swamp for you? If all you want is people to go to jail, then we're no better than the Jan 6 Commission, all right? It's not about send them all to jail. It's about get some of them out of the way, and that's happening. More to come, I think. Connor from Huntsville, great monologue. My pastor, Mark Pettit. Well, Connor, that's because we go to the same church. That's, Mark Pettis, Church of the Highlands. Exactly. Thank you. He knows that, too. He says Connor, Madison campus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Connor. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, George Washington, the founding fathers are the ones who went neck deep for us because they invested everything they had in the making of this nation and rejecting the tyranny of the crown. Perfect.
Amen.
He says, nowadays, some people are only willing to go ankle deep, maybe knee deep, to fight back the tyranny of this government, or at least one I'm not sure what he's saying there. At least one in had been previous to the Trump. Okay. So I don't know if Donald Trump has went quite neck deep, but he's pretty much been treading water. Smiley face. A lot of people on the left hate him, and a lot of people on the right, he's annoying, but I have no doubt the man's heart's in the right place because he's put everything he has on the line to make this country work like it's supposed to, and I, for one, appreciate that, and I'm willing to go at least in the water for him. Jeff from Indiana. Man could run this show. John from Huntsville says, Phil, that was definitely your best monologue ever. Wow, John. And for some reason, the dreams that I have mostly involve tornadoes, and they always seem real, and they usually either involve me saving someone I love from a tornado or somebody I love saving me from a tornado. Wow. Got a thing for tornadoes, John. Said also, did you see, or did JP see, that unbelievable baseball catch? I did see that.
I saw it too, yeah.
Man fell down and then caught it behind his back.
That was crazy.
That was a bossy catch.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts.
What was his name? Dalton Varsho?
Dalton Varsho.
Yeah.
Blue Jays.
I mean, it's like, and then he just had this look on his face like, that's what I do.
Yeah,
It's what I do, man.
I've done that 10,000 times
I mean,
before.
what's up? It's what I do. Mark from Tony says, the only thing that hadn't happened yet, brother, that I really want to see is a 747 headed to Gitmo with Obama, Hillary, and Biden and everybody else who had something to do with the Russia collusion. Okay. Hang in there, Mark. I could be a bit surprised. By the way, you see, here's the other thing, too. Trump's got to really watch that it doesn't look like everything's vindictive for him.
Yep.
So if you noticed, we've seen some things happen in recent days. Like, lo and behold, some of the Russia collusion people just lost their security clearances. They can no longer consult with anybody in government. And there's a few things that are lining up that make you think, maybe about to find a file or three.
Or 20, or yeah,
yes, who knows? Scott from Huntsville says, great on the border and immigration, okay. Not so good on reining in these activist judges. Pull their financial records. Somebody's paying them off. He said, but 2 got arrested. That's a start. Well, see, that's just it, man. You're admitting. When have you ever seen, and this is a great point, when have you ever seen the feds go arrest a judge like that? And oh, by the way, it was well-founded. This is not, this cannot look like, and by the way, Scott, just so you know, I hear what you're saying, but you cannot do that. You cannot be in the place of looking like you're trying to intimidate judges in order to gain an upper hand in litigation. So, that being said, I don't want to see Trump start investigating their records. That's what Obama did. Remember? That's when Lois Lerner weaponized the IRS against conservatives. We can't be that. Now, if you see him commit a crime, go arrest him and throw him in the pokey. But listen, I do not want us to be them. I don't.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that one. It's not throwing them in jail because of their rulings. Throw them in jail when they commit crimes, and that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, and don't let it be that you try to intimidate them, audit their books through the IRS, do all these things, and make their lives miserable just because they're judges who don't agree with you. They commit a crime, though, get them out. TL from Huntsville, his one-up is Doge. Yeah, I love that.
That was a very close second. It's hard to beat what they did at the border, though. I mean, 90-something% down.
Border's number one.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so TL from Huntsville says one up for him is Doge, taking on government corruption. One down, he says, birthright citizenship. One of the reasons why the Dems want due process infinity. That's a great point. I think, though, TL, keep your eyes open because I believe birthright citizenship was just argued in front of the Supreme Court last week. So they're going to, if I'm not mistaken, I got to look back on that. Will you check on that? Birthright citizenship, Supreme Court, see what you get. But I think they argued on that last week, which means that we'll get some type of a ruling. Was that the case they argued? As soon as he pulls it up, TL, I'll read it out to you. Mike from Florence says, where on the Rightside website can you find the current sponsors? I don't see Stan McDonald. If Stan McDonald's not on there, we'll fix that. But all the sponsors are on there. I'm looking at them. Bobby from Huntsville. Bobby from Huntsville says, what about Biden's Dave? What's he saying? Had supposed evidence of corruption for 2 years. Oh,
he meant to say they. I think so. What about the Bidens? They had supposed evidence of corruption for 2 years. Nobody's been to court yet.
Thank you for interpreting for me.
Yeah.
Did you find that in the Supreme Court?
Yeah. So they're hearing 3 cases about it on May 15th coming up.
Oh, okay.
So 3 cases challenging the executive order about birthright citizenship on May 15th.
It's going to be big doings, man. Lisa from Huntsville says her up is also the border. Her down is the district judges overstepping their authority when it comes to deportation of illegals. It seems like there's no urgency to remind the judges their job is to adjudicate, not usurp the president. Well, okay, so, and here's, I guess, and by the way, I feel like I'm correcting everybody, but what I don't want to do is ever be in the position where I don't give some background facts to things. So I totally agree you're up on the border. Obviously, that was mine and JP's number one. But the number 2 on the down about district judges, the 3 co-equal branches of government, Trump cannot just tell them what to do. It doesn't work that way. They are doing what they're doing, and the appeal process is what Trump is doing, and I'm glad he is. In fact, I've got a piece here in a minute I'll get into from Jonathan Turley, Georgetown professor of law, legal expert on Fox News all the time. Jonathan Turley wrote that one of the things that Trump is doing is attacking this through the court system and the appeals process up to the Supreme Court, and he's doing it fast. He's doing it immediate because he knows if he tarries, he runs the risk of a different Supreme Court a few years from now.
And doing it that way will hold through the rest of his term, hopefully, instead of just telling them, no, you do it this way.
It'll hold through other presidencies.
Yeah.
You know, once you get a Supreme Court ruling, it is the law. You can't go anywhere else until they either, like Roe v. Wade, they can reverse something, but it took 40 or 50 years for Roe to get reversed. John from Huntsville says Donald Trump's first 100 days gets a solid A. Okay. He said the best thing he's done is how he's gotten rid of the wokeism nonsense policies. Yeah, DEI being gone is huge. He said there's only one thing I wish he would get done quicker. That's lowering some of these grocery prices. Other than that, he's done spectacular. Okay. So it sounds like, to interpret that number one for him is getting rid of wokeness and DEI. And the downside is the economy is not where he wants it to be yet. I get it. All right, well, let's jump in here. I got some audio clips. How much time we got? We got time? I got some audio clips. I don't know if you saw it or not. Here's one of the things that I love about Donald Trump. And by the way, I'll tell you what. If I see something wrong or something jacked up, I'll tell you what it is, right? But right now, I'm pretty pleased with his presidency, just so you know. But I'll call balls and strikes. So if he screws something up, I'll call it out. Right now, I'm enjoying myself. But Trump did an interview last night with ABC's news anchor, Terry Moran. ABC. Listen, Biden couldn't do a press conference without having a cheat sheet in his hand telling him who he was allowed to call on and what their question would be in advance. And even then, you're not sure if he was going to have an answer. Biden did press conferences with, he had teleprompters to help him through press conferences when he did them. Trump just did an hour and a half open cabinet meeting today with his entire cabinet for the whole world to hear it. He does these press gaggles in Air Force One and in the Oval Office all the time. He just answers questions. He could care less whether they like the answer. But what I really enjoyed is he doesn't just do his interviews with the people that are friendly to him. Remember the softball stuff that used to happen with Biden? My gosh. You know, what kind of ice cream is really your favorite, Mr. President? Oh, well, thank you for asking. No. So Trump did a sit-down interview, pretty extensive interview, with ABC News anchor Terry Moran. And good Lord, I'm pretty sure that Moran walked away licking his wounds. Like, I don't know for a fact, but he might bear the emotional scars for a long time. Man might need counseling. So when we get back from this break, I got a couple of clips I'm going to play you. This first 100 days, one of my favorite things, if I had to give you a list of them, one of my favorite things is we've got a president who will say it like it is and could care less what they think about it. And I'm loving that. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. So a couple of quick text messages, and I'll go to this audio clip I told you about, or clips, plural. Bobby from Huntsville says, oh, okay, so the guy who did the interview, his name was Terry Moran. He said the guy needs to change his name to Terry Moron because he's definitely one. Okay, that's how Bobby feels about it. Ian from Hartselle says, my one-up is I'm happy we have a president that loves our country, that he's actually doing the work. One down, Bondi. I'm ready to see people held accountable, but I heard what you said earlier. Okay, so he's like, I already heard you. Don't say it again. Fair enough, Ian. Thank you. So last night, Trump did this interview with Terry Moran from ABC News. Keep in mind, ABC News is not his friend. ABC News has been just trying to wear him out for years. ABC News gives overwhelmingly negative media to him and his members of his cabinet. But last night, Trump had a sit down for a pretty good while in the Oval Office, and Terry Moran kept digging, and Trump had things to say. I got two quick audio clips that'll give you an indication what the whole thing was like. JP, I'm going to call audio clip number 1 up. This is him basically telling the ABC guy to his face that ABC is fake news. Go ahead.
Do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst, I have to be honest.
He just gave the coup de grace right there on the spot, didn't he? Mortally wounded him. The guy goes, "Okay, thank you very much," and then he says, "By the way, you're one of the worst."
I wish they could have seen the Terry Moran's face. He goes, "Okay, thank you."
Please, sir, may I have another? But that's the way the whole interview went. I mean, it was like a series of those. And there were more substantive, moments where Trump had long definitions and he described policies. And there were times too when, and listen, I mean, how lame is that the guy interviews him and said, is America's image gone down? Oh, you've forgotten Afghanistan. Oh, you've forgotten, Ukraine. Oh, you've forgotten the fact that, foreign policy was in the tank and that Iran was doing what it wanted to do. Oh, you've forgotten the fact that October 7th massacre in Israel happened on Biden's watch. Oh, you've forgotten all of this. That's okay. You think that America's gone down in 90 days. But the next one was Trump basically putting the guy on notice that I don't even have to be here sitting here talking to you if I didn't want to. He was asked whether he had whether he thought that Pete Hegseth was the right man for the job as Secretary of Defense. I was asked the same thing on a SiriusXM interview that I did this morning on POTUS Politics. They asked me the exact same question because I guess it's the question they want answered. So here's Trump's response to the 100% question. Go ahead and play it.
A very good defense, hopefully a great defense secretary, but he'll be a very good defense secretary.
You have 100% confidence in
I
Pete
don't have
Hegseth?
100% confidence in anything. Okay, anything. Do I have 100%? It's a stupid question. Look,
It's a pretty important position.
No. You don't have 100%. Only a liar would say I have 100% confidence. I don't have 100% confidence that we're going to finish this interview.
Did you see Moran's face on that one too?
Yeah.
So the reality is, one of the things that I give a thumbs up to for the last 100 days is that we have a president that is taking no quarter. He is not sucking up to the press. He is not dodging the press. He's just telling them like it is, whether they like it or not. And you know what? A lot of them don't like it. Well, I say they can go pound sand because they have been lying to us and about us for years. We have, how much have we put up with Russia collusion and the Hunter Biden laptop not being real and, everything that, Peter Strzok and his lover on the FBI staff doing all they can behind the scenes to dismantle the Trump administration and the media running from one anti-Trump story to another. And now they've got a president that they can't deal with the way they are used to being able to. Some of them don't even have offices anymore, like in the Pentagon. And they're like, we're the press. Yeah. What's your point?
I also say, too, I think Trump is much better at dealing with the media this time around. I think he took a lot of their bait during the first term and got him to ramble. But, like, moments like that where he's being firm and, just matter of fact, like ABC's just the worst. But he says it in a way that's not, extraordinary and rambling and starts doing his weave thing. He's just matter of fact, says his point, keeps going. So I think he's much better with the media this time around while also getting his point across.
I think, what's that quote from, so JP and I have been in a Bible study. Have you no scars?
Yes. Yeah.
Trump has scars.
Oh, yes, he does.
But he's earned his scars in the trenches. And those scars are giving him the ability to fight more intensely than he probably ever would had he just been reelected immediately back in 2020. I think he's a different level of Trump than he was even before, and it's because of the scars that he earned in the trenches. All right, we got more on this. 100 days. What's your ups and what's your downs? Tell us all about it. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a hump day. Yeah, buddy. Several text messages. Bob from Madison said, I watched the entire cabinet meeting live. They are all so dedicated to the agenda. Hey, Bob, if you want to call in and tell us about that, same number you just texted. I'd love to get your perspective on basically what it was like to watch the cabinet meeting, because if you remember, we did not have cabinet meetings in the Biden administration. In fact, they tried to have one so they could say they did, like in the last 90 days of being in office, and he put his wife in charge of it, which was weird. Yeah.
Well, from what I've seen too, it's just so cool to see like all of these people who have been doing in their individual, sectors have been doing more than the last administration did during its entirety.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it's so cool to see them all come together and say what they've been getting done. It puts into perspective for me of like RFK saying how much he's doing over here, Pete Hegseth over here, and then you got, Tom Homan over here. It's like they're all getting so much done in their own areas. It's when they come together, it really paints the picture of like, wow, yeah, they're getting a lot done.
Yeah. And what a diverse cabinet, too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm loving it. I don't use diverse in the liberal sense. I just love the fact that Trump, there's no stereotype in Trump's White House.
Nope.
He's got a group of men and women who are sharp as tacks. They're all type A personalities, and they're all out there getting things done. And any one of them can speak to their position knowledgeably and with assertiveness and not sound like a bunch of gibberish.
All in front of the media, by the way.
Yeah. Bob from Decatur, and by the way, Bob from Madison, thank you for that. Like I said, if you want to call in and tell us your thoughts on having watched it, that'd be cool. Bob from Decatur says, with Trump, I have absolutely no downs. Well, okay. He said, everything's up. People like to complain, but he's doing exactly what we hired him to do. And I, like many others, he says, think he's doing a phenomenal job. These libs are going down with the ship. All they want to do is complain about the good job he's doing and call it bad. I know there's a scripture in the Bible that says the time will come when they will call good bad and bad good, and we're seeing that right now. Yes. Yes, indeed. Great text, Bob. Thank you. JT Lacey Springs says, my one-up for Trump is he didn't have a first 100 days in 2021. The 2025 100 days have been much greater value. Okay. He said the one down is the border should be 800 versus 8,000. Okay. I'm for that. I would love to see it down to that or less. How about we just build a wall and call it 0? Ed P. from Huntsville says, hey, Phil, my one-up for Donald Trump. He's forcing the Democrats and the left to own their positions on the 20% side of every 80-20 issue out there. He said, my one down for Donald Trump would be the slight mistake that he made when releasing the early information on the Epstein files. But other than that, the other thing I can think of is he's not moving fast enough. Okay. What do we got on the phone? Somebody on the phone? Let's do it. Matt and Madison, go ahead and take it. Matt, how you doing?
Hey, Phil.
How you
pretty
doing?
good. Hey, I watched that thing at that meeting, and they were all touting how much they were doing, how well they're doing, the money they're saving, the things they're getting done. And then Trump opens it up to questions, and the first 2 questions are about that idiot they sent to El Salvador. they're not going to listen, and they're going to report what they want to report. It's just awesome that he puts that on TV and lets us judge for ourselves, but we need to know.
Did you? How much of the cabinet meeting did you watch, Ed?
Almost all of it.
Was it on one of the major networks, or were you streaming it online, or where were you seeing it?
I was watching it on Newsmax.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. All right, well, listen, man, I appreciate you calling in and saying it, and yeah, I agree. I think right now the left has their mantras and they're trying to stick with them, but it's not really taking root, I don't think, in the vast populace. But thanks for the call, man. Appreciate you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Big Dog from Athens. Big Dog says Trump is all up, no down. Leaders lead from the front, should shoulder the ruck and say, "Follow me." Yeah, 11 Bravo, Queen of Battle. I like it. Thank you, Jerry. Big Dog from Athens. A couple more, and then I'll jump back into my materials here. Lisa from Huntsville says, it's nice to see a cabinet that's actually there to work. The last administration looked like a bunch of people there for the country club board meeting. Yeah, when, when they gathered, I mean, like, you know, we had the major supply chain disruption of 2021. Remember that when COVID disrupted everything, and the next thing you know, all the excuses for why you didn't have to do things normally just kind of like took over, and the supply chain was jacked up. And we had the ports of California where they had ships that were parked, you know, like a mile deep, waiting to come in. And Pete Buttigieg took 2 months off for paternity leave because he and his partner adopted a baby. 2 months. Brand new Secretary of Transportation, supply chain disruptions, 2 months of paternity leave. There is your Biden cabinet in a nutshell.
Well, he did have to breastfeed his baby. So.
Stop it. Stop it right now. Do some push-ups. Bobby from Huntsville says they are the A-team. Okay, there you go. So I got a piece here from, well, first of all, Speaker Johnson. I will say this. I just get it for background here. House Speaker Mike Johnson's weighing in on townhall.com on President Trump's first 100 days, calling him the most consequential leader of the 21st century. I don't think that can be argued. And I don't think that can be argued from either side. When you say consequential, you may not like the consequences, but they are consequential, aren't they? I mean, think about what just happened. The border went from being, it's secure, although it was uncontrollable. Last February, 187,000 illegal crossings in 1 month that we knew about. Same month this year, less than 90 days into the Trump administration, in fact, less than 30 days into the Trump administration, down to 8,000. That's down 110,000 in less than 60 days. That's consequential. So I'll just tell you, I mean, I think that's a good depiction. His full quote is, President Trump has taken more executive actions than any other president in history during his monumental first 100 days, and hundreds of his promises have already been kept. Most significantly, he says, President Trump delivered on his two most important signature campaign promises. The border is now secure and inflation is ending, says Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. If you're a liberal Democrat, you already are saying, well, that guy's a Republican. Of course he's going to say that. All right, then tell me why he's wrong. Now, Jonathan Turley, who I mentioned earlier, law professor at Georgetown, or is it George Washington? Maybe George Washington University. But Professor Turley wrote a piece that came out this morning, and I've got a copy of it right here in my calloused former paratrooper hands. What'd you find?
It's George Washington University.
George Washington University. Thank you very much. Jonathan Turley says the first 100 days of the Trump administration have been described in the same way on sites ranging from the ACLU to Vanity Fair. Chaos. Ooh. Now listen, he's not saying that in a bad way. There's something to be said for having some organized chaos. You know, when you move on to the battlefield, I'll just tell you as an infantry officer, part of what you're looking for when you execute the plan is what we call violence of action. Violence of action. That means you get in there and you start slamming. I'm just talking shock and awe. Do not let the enemy gain their footing. Do not let them catch their breath. It's violence of action. Execute that plan forcefully with violence of action. That's exactly what's happening with Trump. And you could call that chaos, although I will say maybe it'd be better described as organized chaos. So Turley is the legal scholar. So he's taken this from a legal background. He says, it seems like the Justice Department is now battling everywhere on everything at the same time, not necessarily, though, as random or reckless as it may seem. There's that organized chaos I was talking about. He says, the hyperkinetic litigation around the country reflects two realities. Two. This is pretty neat. I like this. He says, number one, it reflects that the Democrat state governments and Democrat groups have put together a massive war chest to try and challenge any and every new policy of President Trump. And you can see it. I mean, like even in California, remember this? In California, Newsom called the legislature together to do what they called Trump-proofing their state. They actually set aside a pre-approved litigation fund so the state of California could fight him in court. Unreal. All right, that's the first reality is, yes, they put aside money just to fight Trump and slow things down. Number two, second and most importantly, Trump promised sweeping changes from immigration to transgender policies to education reforms, and he's working the plan. He goes on to point out, too, and I think it's fair to say, that Trump did learn something from his first term. He did. He learned you don't wait around. He learned the art of the deal in this case is violence of action. He says Trump learned in his first term you need to move as fast and as far as possible in the first 2 years of your term. And I agree with that. And then he goes on to quote some of the things he's done. So the bottom line is this. You are watching what Infantry Phil would say is violence of action. It's important to note that that is a part of any good military mission. If you look at this from a military planning and execution standpoint, that's what we're watching. You do not let the enemy get their feet under them. You take the high ground. And then as soon as you take the high ground, you secure the high ground and prepare for the counterattack. And that's exactly what Trump is doing. Now, we've seen a number of things that I'll get to right after this break and wrap this up. But there's been a number of things that are more specific. We'll talk about things like, what did he do with gender ideology? What did he do with veterans in the first 100 days? Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades. So I just saw on Twitter, or X, by the way, that a guy named Matt Murphy. Some of y'all remember Matt Murphy. He's a radio guy, works for Cumulus Broadcasting, and he was in Birmingham for years. Now he's in Nashville. But he just tweeted out a minute ago. He said, if we don't eliminate the penny and the time change for daylight savings time during Donald Trump's second term, I'll consider it a failure of leadership.
Amen to that.
Okay, so getting rid of the penny and ending daylight savings time is like his wish list right now.
The penny is a waste of resources, in my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, if you're still doing cash, at some point you got to break it down. What do you do? Make people round up or round down?
I guess that's a fair point.
Now, I don't get, like in England when I used to live there, they had half pence. Half pence.
Oh
why do you have a half pence?
That is England right there. That encapsulates all of it.
I got a couple more pieces here on the first 100 days. So good piece on Red State. I had not seen this anywhere else. So as a veteran, I'll just tell you, I am real partial to the care and concern given to our veterans. I mean, I remember my dad literally passing away, and his was, I'll just tell you, it was Agent Orange exposure that finally caught up to him. He had part of his veteran's disability on appeal for 3 years. That's unbelievable. It was absolutely confirmed. It was 100% there. I say 100%. They only had like 60%. He was dying from it, and it took 3 years and a deathbed request for them to boost it to 100%. Right under the wire, he actually got approved just before he passed away. Unbelievable. But so that being said, I like this piece that I've got from Red State. It says, during Trump's first 100 days, veterans come first. So Doug Collins, former congressman from Georgia, is now the head of the VA. He wrote a piece that came out in the DC Journal recently. He said about 100 days ago, he said, the Department of Veterans Affairs was led by Biden administration officials who had lost sight of what matters most to veterans. He said the VA was dabbling in DEI, gender ideology, abusing telework, remote work privileges, all to the detriment of veterans, wasting hundreds of millions of dollars on duplicative and unnecessary contracts and slow-walking critical programs like health record modernizations. He said wait times for the VA healthcare got worse under the Biden administration. Then he follows up by saying, we stopped VA's wasteful spending on DEI, which only divided our veterans and staff. The most important identity to us now is veteran. That's it. And by ending DEI programs, we saved $14 million we could spend on our core constituencies. He also said we're processing a record number of disability claims. We're accelerating the VA's electronic health record systems upgrades. And we're taking thousands of employees who were working remotely and bringing them back to the office where they can actually do their job more effectively for veterans. Loving that. Thank you very much. Can I get some applause? I think that's worthy. That's a good one. Oh, thank you, Mama. Thank you very much. All right, so next one here to wrap this up. Daily Wire has a piece, and I agree with this. You know, it's part of the madness of the last 4 years. By the way, does the last 4 years feel like a fog?
Yeah, I actually prefer not to think about the last 4 years. Anytime I hear Trump bring it up, I'm like, yes, you're right, but please don't remind me.
But we can't forget where we've been, though,
That's true.
because it reminds us of where we don't want to ever go again.
Yep.
But part of the fog of this was the inexplicable rise of gender ideology. You know, it was to the point of bizarre. Like we were living in an alternate reality. Bizarro world was among us, and we had this alternate reality suddenly thrust out there as, don't you know, it's always been here. No, actually it hasn't. In fact, it's not real now. But I mean, think back to just like a year ago, the Biden administration hanging rainbow flags on the White House, putting rainbow lights, celebrating Pride Month, the whole month. You know, Easter was declared the day of transgender visibility. And then you had transgenders like going topless on the grounds of the White House and taking pictures for their selfies for their social media. I mean, it just got to the point of it was like not even real anymore. It was surreal.
Got desensitized to it. At least I did a little bit. It was almost like I expected to see that stuff.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's our White House.
Yep.
I mean, and that's our anyway. So the White House was doing all this. One of the things that Daily Wire says is Trump has crippled the radical gender ideology in the first 100 days, and I agree with that. Issuing executive orders, he's taken an axe, basically, if you get down to it, to gender ideology, like defending women in sports, declaring that the funding will be cut off to schools that force kids to have to share locker rooms and bathrooms with people of the opposite sex, doing all they can to take transgenderism out of the U.S. military, declaring that the only recognized sex is your biological assignment and it will only be female or male, period. And most of this, by the way, is just common sense. It just absolutely is nothing but common sense. It's actually reality. But it took having a president to come back in and say, all that stuff y'all have been doing, all that alternate reality, stops now. We ain't doing this. We ain't doing it at all. And I think that's been one of the best things that I've seen. I mean, it's hard to find how big is my best list now? But the border's definitely up there.
Yeah.
But crushing gender ideology is also definitely up there. Oh, by the way, the economy's up there. Did I mention how I feel about Health and Human Services?
And Doge.
And Doge. And then, okay, the list goes on. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we once again get to call Fort Benning, and then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. All right, so I'm going to switch gears now. Dipper number 2. You're welcome to keep texting in what your ups and downs are about the first 100 days. We'd love to hear them. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. So tariff time. Let's talk about a little tariff action. A little bit of tariff in the news. Terrible tariffs. Oh, my gosh, tariffs are ending the world. Life as we know it has been tariffed. Let me ask you something. How many of y'all have actually felt the impact of tariffs? Is anybody? What has happened in your life that you look at and go, the tariffs caused this? JP, anything at all?
Not that I can think of.
No increased cost of groceries? Increased cost of gas?
Not really. And I mean, if there has been, it hasn't been noticeable enough for me to gripe about it.
I would think that's probably the case.
Yeah.
Now, I guess if you were investing in the market, you had a day where it went bad.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You turned around and had a day where it went really good.
Exactly. I think that's the only measurable thing is the stock market going down because of people panicking, being panicans. I think that was it.
But it came right back up.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we recorded some of the better days ever right after that had one of the worst days ever because of market instability. The market gets spooked and things happen. I'm not trying to minimize it because people lost money and I get it. But what I'm saying is this. Tariffs thus far have not truly impacted our individual lives a great deal. But they are impacting foreign policy and they are impacting the long term. This is a long haul moment, right? This is a moment where what happens to you and I economically 10 years from now could very well be a part of what's going on right now with tariffs. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. I will say this. So here's one news story I found fascinating. Did you hear about the story with Amazon?
Oh, yeah, I did.
So hotair.com is where I pulled this one. Amazon says, never mind about the tariff breakout. So here's the story. There's an organization called Punchbowl News. They're one of those kind of inside the DC Beltline, scoop news story sites. So Punchbowl ran a story that said that Amazon was going to start posting all prices so you would see what it would have been had it not been for tariffs. Okay. So they're going to have the tariff price and the pre-tariff price side by side. But the White House immediately got engaged on this. So Stories from Hot Air says that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt clapped back on the issue real quick, calling it a hostile and political act if it was true. She accused Amazon of colluding with China to attack Trump's policies. I mean, basically they weren't going to sit still on this. Here's the thing, too. We just learned this story was updated. Trump actually called Bezos himself, the guy, Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon. Trump called Bezos on Tuesday morning, complained about the reports. 2 senior officials in the White House told CNN that the president was ticked. Trump confirmed Tuesday afternoon he did talk to what he referred to as that good guy Bezos, who did the right thing, he said, and solved the problem very quickly. Amazon is now denying it was ever going to happen. And I think that may actually be the truth. But what we know is Punchbowl apparently got ahead of itself, looking for anything and everything to make tariffs look like the end of society as we know it. Holy cow, negative story. Trump, he's getting sideways with Amazon, except they didn't do a lot of fact checking. Amazon is now saying that was never actually a thing. We weren't going to do that. So basically Punchbowl hit the publish button too soon, thought they had a thing, thought they could embarrass Trump. Trump and Bezos did talk. I suspect it was one of those things that Bezos said, let me check into this because I've never heard this before. It came back and said, ain't going to happen. So that went away quick. But what it is a clear example that the media desperately wants the first 100 days to be a failure. They desperately want the tariffs to become a thing that will destroy Trump's legacy And yet we're seeing stories like this one from CNBC. CNBC, Phil, did you go to CNBC? I did. Go to these places so you don't have to. CNBC, I hold the story right now in my calloused former paratrooper hands. President Donald Trump says he believes the U.S. will have a deal with India on trade very shortly. India. India is the most populous country in the world. Do you know that? You told me the population a while ago is what? 1 point what?
1.438 billion with a B.
Billion. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
That's 4 times the size of the United States. Good Lord. Anyway, President Donald Trump said Tuesday tariff negotiations with India are coming along great. He thinks the U.S. will strike a trade deal with the country. He said, I think we'll have a deal, Trump said. The Prime Minister, as you know, was here 3 weeks ago. They wanted to make a deal. And he and the Indian Prime Minister have got a pretty strong accord. So I think here's my prediction. You ready? My prediction is over the next 90 days, you're going to see one trade deal after another. Some of them are going to be blanket, like EU kind of things. Some of them are going to be individualized, like just with Australia, just with Canada, just with India. But what you're going to see is a realignment of trade around the world. And it never would have happened. I mean, no one can deny that even our friends have been sticking it to us because we were the sugar daddy of the world. Just like basically hosing us. And Trump points out, if I hadn't done it, it would have continued to rock on. And they were all making trillions out of us. And it was not reasonable. And so I could have sat here and, in fact, he said in that interview with Terry Moran from ABC News last night, he said, I'd have been a lot more comfortable. I could have sat here and done nothing, like every other president before him did. But he chose to go ahead and smack some people around and change the dynamic. And now we're seeing things like this story. Fox Business. 2 Trump administration sources told Fox Business on Monday this week the president's working on larger trade deals with countries. That's why it's taken longer to hear about some of the announcements. Japan, Vietnam, Argentina, the United Kingdom, South Korea, European Union are most often mentioned by Donald Trump and his trade team. The White House said last week it had 18 new proposals on paper. That's lightning fast when it comes to trade agreements. Lightning fast. So there's a lot of progress being made. We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team. And again, these are proposals on paper that countries have proposed to the Trump administration and to our government. So we heard on one report there are upwards of 170 countries that have now come back and said, hey, Mr. President, we'd like to work out a deal. That's huge for us. And here's something else I want everybody keep in mind. The left is acting as if somehow or another Trump got dragged into tariffs. He didn't get dragged into it. Trump controls his own destiny with tariffs. He can raise them, lower them, mitigate them, do away with them with the stroke of a pen. He doesn't have to wait on a polarized Congress. He doesn't have to go get authority from the Supreme Court of the United States. He can literally say, my trade policy says tariff on you, but not on you. And oh, by the way, now I'll lighten that tariff because you're working with me. And oh, by the way, you over here, I'm going to increase it. He can do that. It's part of the leverage that he has to project our foreign policy on the world stage. And so we're looking right now at a president who is exercising every option to make America great again, one of which is economic. And he is changing the world dynamic. Keep that in mind. He is changing the world dynamic when it comes to trade. But then he's doing stuff to enhance it. Like taking out the Houthis, oh, by the way, is not just taking out a bunch of raggedy guys who have, B-grade Temu purchased missiles. He's doing it because he's freeing up freedom of passage through the Suez, because the world's commerce is being stymied by the Houthis. So he's putting our money where our mouth is. He's taking out the impediments to trade. He's opening up trade negotiations left and right. And he's holding some of the big dogs accountable, like even China. And y'all, that's massive. Speaking of China, story on Fox Business. China caves on a 125% tariff for major U.S. export after White House predicts Beijing can't keep up. There's a lot of talk right now. I saw a great article. I posted it on my social media. You can follow me if you want to at SinPhilWilliams. It's the same address on Facebook and on Twitter, @SendPhilWilliams. But Gordon Chang, who's I think he's an expatriate from China, maybe Hong Kong at the very least, but he is a expert on foreign policy as it relates to China. He wrote a great piece about how what we're watching right now is China not being able to keep up. He said there's no way in the world China can keep up with what's going on right now with tariffs. They're doing all they can, but in the end, we have the better ability to sustain, and China is falling behind. Fox Business reports as of yesterday, China waived a 125% tariff on ethane products. Ethane is vital to some of their own industry, and they get a lot of it, believe it or not, from the U.S. So they're already going, okay. All right, tariff 125% on you, but not on this piece. We can't do that. So what this is indicating is China realizes it could lose millions of jobs if it shuts down some of the things it relies on that come from the United States. So even though it's talking big stuff, it's having trouble keeping up, and it's already carving out exceptions. And that's pretty awesome. Last thing, I tell you what time we got? Yep, I'll do it right now. I got a piece here from Fox Business again. Apparently Fox Business was just my go-to on this topic. About the number of companies that are investing in the U.S. right now. We're talking like over $1 trillion in commercial investment in the United States. Why? Because companies are realizing that the tariffs are putting them in a position where they'd rather be here than over there, because that way their products are not getting tariffed on the way in. They're made in America. Taiwan Semiconductor announced it was going to put $100 billion toward advanced semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S. Eli Lilly, the drug maker, said it was going to establish 4 new manufacturing plants in the U.S. GE Aerospace says it's investing $1 billion in U.S. manufacturing. Apple says they're pledging $500 billion over the next 4 years to build on American innovation and high-skilled manufacturing. Hyundai has outlined a plan for a $21 billion investment in the United States since Trump took office. All this since Trump took office. NVIDIA, I said this one the other day. NVIDIA, this is high-tech, AI supercomputers. NVIDIA is building brand spanking new plants in Texas and is making a massive capital investment. Abbott Laboratories, Chobani, Toyota, I could go on. I got a whole list here. I mean, Toyota alone is building an $88 million new investment in its plants in West Virginia. Tariffs. You tell me, are they working? I'm just saying.
And it's escaping me who said this, but somebody, a part of the White House, talking to the press, made the point of, companies investing in America, like that's not a sign of a failing economy. That's a sign of an economy on the up, a thriving economy.
Yeah.
So it's all the nonsense and the fear mongering of tariffs are going to raise prices and crash the economy. If that were the case, if the U.S. economy was really going to be that bad, I don't think we'd be seeing this many investments. Just saying. Here's
the other thing too. Trump's not going to get elected so he can crush the economy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to get elected as a billionaire who's made his billions by smelling a deal and being able to work the art of the deal. And doing that because he's a beta male is not. He's now listen. Is something going to go wrong here, there, and the other? Maybe. I mean, I agree with him. I don't see everything as being 100%. He said that himself. But the truth of the matter is this: we have not had anybody in the office of the presidency with more proven acumen in terms of growing and investing in business than Donald Trump. And I think it's going to pay off. All right, we're taking a break right now. JP, we'll take that break. We'll go ahead and move to that break, and we'll come right back, and we'll wrap this thing up. And don't forget, coming up top of the hour, the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson and little old me, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, she held on during the break, so let me not waste any time and go right to the phones. Tammy from Newmarket. Hey, Tammy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for your service, Bill.
Well, thank you so much.
Long-time listener, loving listening to you and JP.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to bring up an aspect that I don't really hear anyone else talking about, but being in the pharmaceutical business, I know in the last several weeks we have had massive meetings because we source probably over half of our raw materials, APIs especially, from China.
Okay.
So we have had massive movements trying to source from India and many other countries, but mostly India. And the amount of money and we're just a small fry, okay? We do about $100 million a year, but we're a small fry. If we're doing this mass movement, how many other companies in America are having to move because their customers and we cannot absorb those types of tariffs, right?
Yeah.
And if India makes a deal with the U.S. first, they're going to lose our business for good, and nobody talks about that. So what's going to happen to those manufacturing facilities in China?
Yeah,
they're going to lose it, and they're going to lose our business for good.
I think that's got to be a wake up call for China right there, because I mean we are China's biggest trade partner by far.
Right.
But so let me ask you, Tammy. You don't have to name the company because I think that could be awkward for you. But are you in manufacturing? Are you in sales and distribution? Where are you in the pharmaceutical industry?
Well, we basically supply compounding pharmacies. So
Gotcha.
We buy bulk raw materials. We repack it down into smaller, more manageable things for compounding pharmacies to use. And I'm the director of quality assurance.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, then you're definitely seeing exactly what you're talking about. So those sourcings, are they readily available, or are they having to stand things up in India right now? Do you know?
Well, I mean, we're vying for their business, right? Because they can only produce so much. So we wanted to try and get to them and get our products secured, right? Because they're only going to be able to absorb so much that China usually makes.
Well,
so like I said,
yeah,
we're a small fish. So if everybody's moving,
it's a market shift. It absolutely is. I think it's going to be interesting to watch where it all pans out. Hey, Tammy, I'm about to hit the break, but thank you very much for the call. Thanks for being a Right Side Ruffian.
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, take care. All right, listen, we're about to hit a break. Tariff time. I didn't even scratch the surface, but the end result of this is tariffs are having an impact. Most of us are not individually seeing it all yet. Tammy's got a great story right there about part of her industry is already seeing the realignment of their supply chain. China is going to feel that pain and have to decide what it's going to do, because can China sustain? Not as well as we can. At the same time, you got to hold on and strap in, because this is not going to be over tomorrow, but we are hearing absolute movement on trade deals. And I think you're going to wind up seeing some massive trade deals starting to be announced, like in the next 30, 60, and 90 days. You watch. I guarantee you, come the 180-day mark of the Trump administration, I think you're going to see some serious stuff getting put on the books. All right, coming back in just a minute. It's hour number 3. That means it's time for the Grand Council with Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, and me, Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And, oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 of Hump Day. And you know the deal. Hour number 3, we jump on this thing we call the Grand Council, where we ping each other with questions, two of my brethren in talk radio, and we just see where the chips fall. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. But in the end, we still love each other. So let me just call the roll and make sure that everybody is present. Do I have a quorum? From 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN, Cumulus Broadcasting, host of the Dale Jackson Show, up yonder in Huntsville. Also does a gig in Chattanooga. Oh, by the way, he works with Yellowhammer News. And oh, by the way, he's on the line right now. Dale Jackson, are you there?
You forgot about my TV show and how I'm the world's best father and worst husband. So,
I forgot that part.
Oh!
Stand at ease. All right, so turning my view southward. From FM Talk 106.5, host of the Jeff Poor Show, also the editor-in-chief for 1819 News. And, oh, by the way, works with Breitbart, Lanyap, and God knows what else. Jeff Poor, are you there?
I'm present.
You are, and we're very glad. All right, so I pronounce a quorum. Hit it, man.
Assemble the Grand Council.
But all right, fellers, we just kick it off with Dale Jackson from a Clean Feed Connection in Tennessee. What you got?
All right, so we have a absolutely predictable story here. Fox News has obtained a second protective order that was filed against Maryland man and the greatest American that ever lived, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And in 2020, he had his wife accuse him of physical abuse, threatening her, and says she has a recording where he says, even if he kills her, nobody can do anything about him. Will they ever learn? Will the media ever learn that maybe the guy with gang tats on his knuckles, who's been deported, who everyone thought was in a gang, who was caught with people who are gangbangers, who was a human trafficker, all these things, that maybe that's not the guy you go to the mat for?
Well, you know, they constantly need this anti-hero, right? They constantly need the underdog guy. Like, for instance, another one just to add to the fray is the Colombian student, Palestinian rabble-rouser Ahmed something, got released today on a judge's order. And so apparently everybody who is anti-Trump, regardless of what they've done in life, it's okay. As long you can be the hero darling of the left. No, they're not going to let go. He's going to continue to be their cause celeb. They've dug their hole so deep on this, they have to stay with it. It's like Russia at this point. They can't let go of the story because if they do, they're wrong. And they can't ever say they're wrong. So, Jeff, weigh in. What do you think?
They'll have to let go eventually, I think, but it won't be like, oh, our bad, sorry, we were wrong. You just will never hear his name again, and it won't be front page news anymore. You won't have U.S. senators going to El Salvador or whatever. So yeah, I think eventually the steam runs out on this one.
I think it's already running out, but they just don't know what to do with it. It's your own question, Dale. What are you thinking?
I think they'll just find the next guy. I mean, they'll find some other guy who's either friendly to terrorists or beats his wife or across the border illegally, who's a human traffics. As long as Trump criticizes them, they'll be like, well, he must be a good guy then.
He must be our guy. Let's reel him in.
That's it.
All right, Jeff, your question. What do you got for the group?
I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer question, but first 100 days, I mean, grade it historically. How does it compare among other president's first 100 days?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump on that. We've been talking about that here the last hour on my show, and we gave the audience even the question, and a bunch of them responded. What's your favorite up and what's your favorite down? Like you want a good thing and a bad thing on the report here. What's the hot wash for the first 100 days? Generally speaking, the border is absolutely number one, and for me, number two is with regards to the Abrego Garcia guy, I do think that the Trump administration could have been a little tighter on their procedures, and they kind of have a self-inflicted wound here they're dealing with. But that being said, it's still not bad. I saw today where someone said this was the most consequential president. I think it's the Speaker of the House, most consequential presidency in modern history, and I think that's the same whether you like him or don't. It's still consequential. I think he's absolutely knocking it out of the park. Dale.
Yeah, I overall, if I was to grade it, I would probably give him a B minus. I would say A for accomplishments, D for presentation, weighting heavily on the accomplishments being far more important than the presentation. C for tariffs, if you want to go there, because he can't make up his damn mind as to exactly what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. Some will call that art of the deal. Some will call that capitulation. I'm guessing it's a little bit of both. But B minus, that's where I'd put him. I don't like some of his picks like Robert Kennedy Jr., but I don't care enough about it to be mad about it. So again, more about the accomplishments. And I think he's done a good job on the border, on the social issues we all care about, that real human beings care about, transgenderism, CRT, all that stuff. I think he's done pretty good. So B minus.
You know what? So the actual grade, I guess that was the question. I just totally missed that piece, but I'm going to go ahead and say A minus. So I'm at an A minus on this with a couple of caveats to what Dale just said. Jeff, your own question. How do you grade it?
I think B plus. I mean, you never know the outcome or end results in the first 100 days. I think he knew he had to go hard. He's kind of a lame duck president. He's not going to get another shot at this. This was going to be it. And you got to go for the gusto with every opportunity. And I think as well as he could, he's made the most of it. Some of the messaging may have helped on the margins. I always was underwhelmed by the messaging on the tariffs and just really explaining things. You're not going to necessarily win the media over, but you can court public opinion a little bit better. The only thing I think the first 100 days that may be, the economy contracting at the very, very end, probably not great for that. But he did it. He executed it in a way that was better than expected.
All right, fair enough. Quick question here. We got about 2.5 minutes for the break. So Tommy Tuberville, largely expected to be announcing a run for governor later this month, probably at the very end of the month to coincide with the day that Alabama law allows you to begin raising money. That being said, story out right now that he's actually been claiming homestead exemption on his house in Auburn now since 2018, which means that's his home of record. Are we through with this story? Is it going away? Did they play their cards too soon on this one? Are we done with the whole idea of he's a Florida governor or a Florida senator? Dale.
If these were their cards, when they fanned them out, you had a ripped card, a card from an Uno deck, the instructions, and it was just a broken, and then a 2 and a 3. You had nothing here. You were never going to be able to use this to do anything. He is invulnerable on this issue. It was never going to work. It was time to move on a long time ago from this. If he wants to be governor, he's going to be governor. Let's decide what else to do next.
Jeff, what do you think, man?
No, I think you're right. Dale's right. I would say this, though. I think they had to play the best hand they had. The only way you're going to beat Tuberville is try to kill it in the womb and try to end it before it starts, because you're not going to beat it later. This is not going to come out and end his bid for governor. So try to scare him off. Try to bluff him a little bit, and maybe that would work. And it was, if it didn't work with Jeff Sessions, if it didn't work with Bradley Byrd, it wasn't going to work here. But that's what they had to do. They did what they had to do. I tell you what was curious to me, that story that you referenced, Senator, Alabama Daily News of all places. I would not have thought that's where it would have been.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes referred to as state-funded media, but yeah.
Who would say such a thing?
I don't know. Some guy. All right, fellas. There you go. That's round one. Round one. Grand Council. Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, little old me, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. And by the way, don't forget, DeKalb MD, Healthcare Simplified, is the sponsor weekly of the Grand Council, and I'll tell you more about them in a few minutes. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, going back to round number 2 with the Grand Council. First question, second round. Dale Jackson, what you got?
This is from 1819 News.
1819 News?
I know. Fairhope, Alabama, their library situation is still ongoing. I thought it was pretty interesting. Someone stood up at the city council meeting and said, hey, how many of you people want to remove these books from the children's section and move them over to the adult section? And about half the people raised their hands. And then the guy said, hey, how many of you are sick freaks that want to leave them where kids can see them? And nobody raised their hand. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I think he made a pretty good point. He's like, well, what are you people here yelling about? Like, well, you just don't want any change anywhere? And obviously they didn't want to admit that they were these types of books because, like I said, they're sick freaks. But I think Fairhope is the canary in the coal mine, and I hope they kill it.
That is pretty hilarious. And I'll be honest with you, I still am taken aback by the fact that library boards have become the center of the woke universe. I mean, go figure that the library boards would be like the epicenters of controversy in the culture wars. But that's where we are, apparently. And Fairhope's a beautiful town. I mean, the Eastern Shore is great. Fairhope is gorgeous. I've thought several times I wouldn't mind living there. But man, they are not just the canary in the coal mine potentially, but they're also a bit on the blue side for what I would say Alabama's used to. Jeff, what are you thinking? Your story.
That's not true.
What's
I
not
live
true?
In Fairhope.
You live in Fairhope? I didn't know.
It's not
this.
a blue city. It's not blue at all. It went 3-1 for Trump. The problem is you have a very vocal minority that shows up in these sittings, and they make themselves seem like they're the majority. That's number one. I went to that meeting last night 4 hours before I drove to Montgomery to be at the State House today. Wow. I got out of there at 10 o'clock. They got to Montgomery about 1 o'clock. So let me say this about that whole situation. This is just festering. And every city council meeting, these same people, the pros and the cons, show up. And this crowd here, the city council there, they won't go one way or another. They're scared of their own shadow. This controversy is going to fester. Fairhope is the only public library in the state of Alabama to lose its state funding because it won't follow the APLS guidelines. I think that's a problem. I mean, it's administrative law. It's not necessarily civil or criminal, but they just don't. They just refuse to take the bull by the horns here and take control of what's kind of a rogue library, self-perpetuating, by the way, rogue library board.
Well, and I tell you what, and I say it on my show all the time, you want to change your community, just run for a local office. It's amazing what you can see happen just by being a member of the library board or being a member of the city council or being a member of the county commission. I mean, you can get stuff done and you can actually make some change. Your own question, Dale. Anything else on that?
I would like to say to what Jeff said. One, get some sleep. Good Lord, you sound like you're dying. Number two, would this headline that you wrote on this story at 1819 News, would this be allowed to be in the kids section?
I saw that headline. I thought, wow. But
I didn't want to say it on the radio.
That's what I told Erica, but somebody said it at a public open meeting on the record.
So that makes it okay.
Oh, man, I'm going to go to the next public meeting and say a lot of very interesting things, and I hope
I feel certain that's true. I'll be there with a camera.
In your front yard.
All right, Jeff, next question. What do you got?
Last night, while I was at the Fairhope City Council meeting, the Alabama State Senate the Republicans at least had to learn a hard lesson. Look, they had these guys, these Democrats, backed in the corner. They had a gun to their head. They told them, this is the way you want to play. We're going to use the rules and the tools, as Roger Smitherman says, to advance our agenda. And that's what they did. They said, we're going to cloture you. Well, I got the cloture calendar going here, and they said, okay, let's cut a deal. They cut a deal, this Birmingham Waterworks thing that's been an issue forever, Senator. And they said, okay, well, we're going to have a get along truce, and we'll finish out the session. Well, Roger Smitherman really proved that you can't trust these guys. Yeah. Made them read the entire general fund budget yesterday. Yeah. Killed 4 really good bills, I think. does this is a lesson they had to learn the hard way. Does it stick?
I don't know, but it needs to, because I've seen this happen time and time again. It used to aggravate the crap out of me. I'll never forget when we had Senator Mark Cahey, a Democrat, who got mad because redistricting was drawing his lines differently, and he literally had the entire redistricting bill read at length, which is they have to use a computer to do it because it's so long. It took a day and a half. I think they finally shut it off at some point, but it's absolutely asinine that Republicans would continue to let themselves be duped into this, like Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown and losing good legislation. And I mean, do this if you're gonna be nice, do it earlier in the session, but don't waste your final hours, because right now they're in the 11th hour and there's good stuff on the table, and it's about to be lost because you thought once again that Roger Smithman really wouldn't hose you, and he does. Every single time. Him and Bobby Singleton will get up there and filibuster for no other reason than just the fact that they can. And they love it. It's what they live for. Dale?
So did they kill their bills, or did they quote unquote kill their bills? And what I mean by that is this maybe something Republicans didn't actually want these bills to pass? Is that a possibility, Jeff?
No, I don't think that was.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think that's the case at all. I think some of these were kind of benign, actually, to tell you the truth. Now, there's a couple of controversial bills on there. However, it looked like if they got the budgets done, they would have been able to get these bills out. These bills are done for the rest of the session.
Well, at some point, too, I suggested this when I was in, at some point they've got to look at whether or not having the bills read at length should still be a requirement if it's invoked. Because all that does is date back to the days when they didn't have copy machines, and someone who hadn't had a chance to read the bill at length could ask for it to be read at length before they vote. Well, everybody has a copy machine now. Everybody gets a copy of it digitally sent to their emails. That rule is archaic, and all it does is give the Democrats a chance to slow down the process. It's useless, and it's time to go ahead and change that and just remove that tool.
Also, some of the legislators couldn't read.
That's probably true, too.
No, I'm making that up. I just made that up. I don't know.
I know. I'm gonna bet there's some truth in it. All right. I don't know that we have much time left, but I will just say this. So the University of Alabama is at the center of the political universe because tomorrow Beto O'Rourke is protesting in Tuscaloosa. Trump's going to be there for a commencement speech, and Nick Saban is apparently going to join President Trump. So real quickly, center of the universe for politics, Dale?
Oh, Beto O'Rourke is going to be there? Of course it's the center of the universe.
Center of the universe.
Nick Saban and Donald Trump are going to be together. Man, this is going to be a real test of some liberals in this state to see how hard they're willing to push against Nick Saban now and say how disappointed they are about him. You saw what they did to Saquon Barkley all over ESPN.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other day. Will they do that to Nick Saban? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Jeff, 10 seconds. What do you think?
Hey, Doug Jones's ill-fitting suit will be there, too.
All right, yeah, get it all in.
All right, guys. Appreciate you both. Grand Counsel, Jeff Power, Dale Jackson, little old me. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all don't talk about this show. Whew. I mean, it goes from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, and I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we get to call, once again, Fort Benning. And then, oh, by the way, big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, before I forget, I got to tell you, so every week now, the sponsor of the Grand Council on Wednesdays is DeKalb MD. DeKalb MD, that's D-E-K-A-L-B, as in DeKalb County. DeKalb MD, it's healthcare, simplified. Look, DeKalb MD is very unique. Picture this. Can you imagine getting your medical care without having to worry about your insurance? Wow. So DeKalb MD is a direct primary care provider. Got a network of clinics located in Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, two of the locations in Chattanooga. They have a monthly membership. It's like joining a gym. $75 a month. That's it. $75 a month, no insurance required. You get a monthly membership that gives you same day or next day scheduling with your no wait times, a longer visit with your medical provider, after hours access, direct phone numbers to call or text your provider. They can mail medications to your house. Look, it's so cool. DeKalb MD, it works with you instead of your insurance. So yeah, DeKalb MD. They call it primary care with you in mind. So check them out. Visit DeKalbMD.com. That's their website, www.DeKalbMD.com. Schedule an appointment. Do me a favor if you do. Tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Thank you very much for that. And the representation is made that they are a great doctor. How about that?
You didn't say it fast. That doesn't count.
All right, we're down to it. I'm going to get a few text messages, and I'm going to jump in just a little piece of this last. I've got a short dipper, a very short one. Let's see if I can get to it. Shag Nasty the Atheist checking in said, I thought Jesus was the one offering the straight and narrow path, but all I hear conservative America do is following the party line. I don't know what you mean. I love Jesus. I'm a Republican. The two are allowed to go together. That's okay. Kenan from Huntsville says, disagree. Kilmore,
Burgo Garcia.
Kilmore, yeah, thank you. Was a setup against the Democrats. Every day a new revelation comes out making that's a very interesting idea.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting idea.
I think there is some truth to that. I think they are letting them dig their own grave with defending it. Because
that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I think
like
it is. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's intentional that the Trump administration, made that technicality error, but now that they have, I mean, let the Democrats defend him.
If that's true, that is some next level chess. That's
4D
3D.
chess.
That's 3D. Oh, 4D chess.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in 4D chess now. Wow. Kenan, you have piqued my curiosity. Thank you very much. Jay from Hartselle. Unfortunately, to course correct on tariffs, somebody has to hurt. That might be what has to happen to bring them to the table. Need to stay the course and let it play out. I agree with that. Allie from Athens says, with regard to the first 100 days of Trump 2.0, our tribe has a saying that I will invoke right here. Quote, extra butter on the popcorn, pass the bucket, please. I am thrilled, and I say keep it going. I like that, and I may plagiarize that. Thank you, Allie from Athens. Danny from Decatur says, I saw a video of President Trump at an event about veterans. An ABC reporter was yelling questions, and the president called him a sleepy reporter. He turned the mic over to a 22-year-old Marine veteran, challenged the media to remove their heads from their backsides and report the truth that this president was taking care of veterans. Wow. I'd love to have seen that clip. We need to find that one. Matt from Madison says, Lee Zeldin announced his last day in the Army after 28 years. One of the cabinet members asked if Hegseth signed his papers. I didn't know Zeldin was still in the Army Reserve? I didn't know that. Very cool. Wade from Huntsville sends me a meme. Pray tell, what is this? Okay, we're not going there, but thank you very much. Why would they even send me that?
That's what I was wondering.
I don't know. Bob from Madison says, you said you would have liked for me to call the station, give my opinion regarding the cabinet meeting live, but I've briefed multiple meetings with generals, but I'm not ready for a conversation on nearly national radio. Perhaps sometime. Bob, you're welcome anytime, brother. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Let me jump into something that I made this into it's like a mini dipper. I knew I had Grand Council for the first half of the last hour, and I thought I want to fill the space at the end with something that I think is worthy of discussion. Some of y'all may have seen, and I mentioned on the show earlier this week, CEO Marcus Lemonis of Camping World. You remember them, the RV distributors? So Camping World is a retailer of recreational vehicles, campers, trailers, and their signature thing is a flag, like the flag itself is the size of a basketball court. It's massive, a massive American flag. It flies from a pole that's 130 feet tall outside of every single Camping World location, 200 locations around the nation. And they have been in a pitched running gun battle with Greenville, North Carolina. Greenville, North Carolina City Council demands the flag be taken down. Why? It's too big. It's got nothing to do with the FAA. It's got nothing to do with flight paths of the airport. It's got nothing to do with anything except the city council pushing their weight around and saying, we don't like big flags. That's all it is. Lamona says, ain't gonna do it. In fact, you know what he did? He closed down the whole operation. He basically invested in this location in Greenville, and he finally said, how about forget y'all? I'm not taking down the flag. If that's the way it's going to be, if you're going to charge me $15,000 a day in fines, I'll just shut down the whole operation, and good luck to you. I love the fact that he says this. He said, I was not born in this country. I immigrated from Beirut, Lebanon. I came here to Miami, Florida, and I had an opportunity to live the American dream in this country. He said that flag is what he calls his love letter to America. How about that? It's his love letter, he says, to tell everybody how grateful I am this country provided me an opportunity that it didn't have to make money, to be a capitalist, and to provide jobs in America. He said, from my perspective, the flag's not a problem. Wow. Meanwhile, he also made a $50,000 donation to Maynard Children's Hospital in Greenville, despite the fact that they were trying to fine him and make his life miserable. I brought that story up again because I saw something else this morning on the Federalist. The Federalist has a piece, the headline, get this, the headline is, mass immigration without assimilation is a recipe for national suicide. Think about that. We have had 11 million people flood our borders illegally in a human wave over the last 4 years. How many of them have truly come here with the intent to become Americans and assimilate into American society? And I would dare say the number is likely very few. There's no effort on the part of so many of them to embrace America, learn our language, adhere to our laws. Now, I'm not saying they're all lawless. I get it. Some of them came here and they desperately wanted a different life than what they had back home. Whatever. The fact is they came here illegally, and that's the problem number one. But this article I've got from the Federalist points out something that's happening in Great Britain right now. And I lived in Great Britain for 3 years. Great Britain, living in London, England is where I accepted Christ. That was my life-changing place. But a video clip surfaced. A video clip from 2022 from a Scottish labor leader. His name is Anas Sarwar. He's a Pakistani immigrant. And he has this video of him while he's a Scottish labor leader, standing in front of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan's flag, claiming that change was coming to Great Britain, saying that it was time for ethnic and Muslim sectarianism in Scottish politics, demanding, he said, that his people be allowed to take control of the government of Scotland. Part of his quote was this. He said, the days when South Asian communities get to decide not just which school our children go to, but what they are taught in those schools is also coming. He said, we only want a true great power, but not by having Pakistanis sitting in council chambers. We want Pakistanis making the decisions. There was nothing in these comments about Great Britain. Nothing. He came there with the intent to dominate the country that hosted him in. And we're seeing this in parts of America right now. We are. Think about it. You can look at what's happening in Scotland and England right now and say that this should be a cautionary tale for America. I mean, despite whatever the left wants to claim about multiculturalism and how we should coexist and we should embrace and we should now celebrate their ethnicities, how about this? How about we celebrate America? And this is sobering stuff, y'all. It really is. Because you look at it and go, okay, what was Sarwar's intent? It was not to raise up Scotland to be a better Scotland. It was to raise up a new Pakistan. And he was very clear about it. And does anybody think for a second that he didn't mean that they were also going to not impose an Islamist agenda when they did? So here's the point in this article from Federalist, which I think is worthy of our discussion. He points out that in America, we are seeing concentrations like this. I'm not picking on Muslims. This goes into other ethnicities as well. But in this case, he points out Michigan. He says Michigan has concentrations of unassimilated Muslim immigrants in which scenes of them demanding demonstrations of their Muslim identity are playing out of the streets left and right. Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota embraces her Somali ethnicity first before her Americanism. Representative Joaquin Castro of Texas issued a statement this week calling on Trump to rescind his executive order requiring that commercial truck drivers speak English. He said it was a targeted attack on the Spanish-speaking community. And he points out and says, we have got to reject this with all of our might. He says, if we fail to do that, we will wake up and find ourselves in the position of Scotland where the leader of a major political party feels free to push an ethno-religious sectarianism oblivious to their own impending destruction. Bottom line is this. Ain't nothing wrong with us having a national identity. There's nothing about what I just said that says you can't come here from abroad. There's nothing about what I said that said one person is greater than another. There's nothing about what I just said that is in any way designed to say this ethnicity better than that ethnicity. What it's saying is this identity, this national identity, the idea of being an American first. If you're going to come here and say, I want to live in America, then how about this? Be an American. Don't come here to be a South Asian American. Don't come here to be a African American. Don't come here to be a Central American American. Don't come here and demand that your language be the language that is given to you on all the forums from our government and everything else. We can have a national language. We can have a national identity. We can embrace who we are as a people. And our people are built, we are in one hand the mutts of the world, and yet at the same time we are absolutely the kings of the world. Because this America is built on the back of immigration, yes, but only because they came here and became Americans, not because they divided themselves off and lived in a sectarian environment on U.S. soil. There's my point. There's my mini dipper. There's my rant. There's my closing of the day. We'll come back from this break. We'll see what we got left. Get a few text messages. Tell me how you feel. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Bulletproof influence. All the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker. There you go. All right, a couple of quick text messages, then I'll go to the phones. Matt in Madison said, it's a long text. What do you got here? So just wondered, as soon as you've seen this, I tell you what, I'll have to take a look at it, brother.
It's a Theodore Roosevelt quote.
Oh. I need to come back to that. All right. Thank you, Matt. I don't have time for it, but I will definitely look at that and get on it. Thank you very much. Adam from Athens, anything Teddy Roosevelt's going to be good.
Yeah.
Adam from Athens sends me a picture of the flag hanging in his, I guess, his place of employment. Awesome. And then John from Huntsville says, Dale Jackson gets a C- for giving Donald Trump a B-. Jeff Poor gets a C for being just a little bit better than Dale Jackson. JP gets an A+ for his outstanding performance, even though I was hoping for a few more sound effects. Means today's winner is Phil Williams with a sensational A++ for his best monologue ever and that awesome mini rant. Thank you, John. Appreciate you. Let me run on to the phones with a guy who's known for a good mini rant once in a while, Jeff Rowe from Indiana. How's it going, my truck driving friend?
Hola, Senor Williams.
Hey, embrace the culture, dude.
That's right. You know, you're worried about all these other people coming in. I'm still waiting for the Democrats to assimilate myself. They act like they're still from some kind of a communist or socialist country still yet. It'd be nice if they would assimilate once in a while.
You know, I seem to remember too. Didn't Bernie Sanders actually go to communist Russia, Soviet Union, for his honeymoon? I think he did.
Well, yeah, to Russia with love. From Russia with love.
Oh, my gosh. You can't make that guy up. Bernie Sanders, to me, looks like one of the Muppet characters. Like, I look at him as being one of the old men in the balcony on the Muppet Show. He's perfect for it.
Except he don't look quite as good as they did. He's a little worse for wear. And Russian winters are hard on you.
Yeah. Too much time in the gulag. All right, so what's on your mind, brother? What do you think about all the stuff we talked about today?
Well, you know, it's like Trump's tariffs.
Yeah.
You know, people don't realize, you know, that's what he's doing. You got to go through a little pain to if you got cancer. You know, you get it cut out and everything. You're still going to be in a little pain while you're recovering and everything, but you're going to live. So, you know, you got to take it in stride like that. You know, I guess he would have the power. I don't know if, you know, he has the power to set foreign negotiations and everything. I guess he could just shut off all trade to a nation if he wanted to.
I would think. I mean, Rand Paul right now, by the way, is ticked off. Senator Rand Paul wants Trump to not have the power in the executive branch to do tariffs. He calls them a form of taxation. Therefore, it should initiate with the legislative branch. And I'm thinking that's crap.
Yeah, Rand Paul, you love him or you hate him. It's one time he's doing real good and he's out there doing the right thing, and the next time it's like, man, you need to get back with the program.
And it can be both in the same day. you can love him at breakfast and hate him by lunch.
Yeah, because I like the guy and everything, but then he goes off on these little tirades like that and stuff, and you got to, accept the big picture, I guess you'd say, and do things that need to be done for now, and in the long run it'll come out.
Well, I wait and see. What do you think though? Are tariffs impacting you personally at all yet? Have you seen personally like anything that you say, "Oh man, tariffs hit me"?
No, and I haul to a steel manufacturer basically. This is a foundry that melts old junk metal and makes new things. So it's basically in the steel industry in here, and they're not doing a whole lot right now. In fact, they're shutting down weekends. So. Like this weekend here, they're going to be shut down. They were shut down last week, and usually they work every other weekend.
Huh.
So things are a little tight right now for them, and I don't really realize why.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to play out. I think in the end we're going to see like major trade deals starting to materialize. I think we're going to see some things happening probably in the next, I would bet in the next 30, 60, and maybe 90 days at most. We're going to see a lot of those 170 nations who have been appealing to the Trump administration for a new deal to actually get a new deal. I think it's going to be good for America in the long run.
Oh yeah, it's like I say, you got to cut out where like Canada, where they have 3 or 4 100% on milk and cheese and products and stuff like that to basically save their own industry there. You're gonna have to either let things go or save it. As far as protectionism.
Yeah, I agree.
If we're either going to be traders or we're going to be protectionists. So
well,
I think free trade would be the best.
I think we're headed in a good direction. Hey man, the music is about to play. You be safe on the road, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one, Phil.
All right, see you, man. All right, listen, I'm serious when I say this. The only thing that makes this audience, this show great is the audience. We can talk all day in a microphone. If y'all aren't there, ain't no good. But we appreciate you. More than you can possibly know, we appreciate you. So, yes, by the way, don't forget, there's more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.